They hear ranch, HOA, and lawsuit, and they assume I came in swinging. But the truth is, I kept my head down for years. Paid my taxes, fixed my fences, raised my cattle, smiled politely at meetings I didn't need to attend because my land predated the HOA by decades. That technicality mattered. Apparently, it mattered too much to one particular woman. Her name was Linda Whitmore, HOA president, self-appointed sheriff of the neighborhood, and the kind of person who believed rules existed for everyone else but her. Around the community, she was known simply as Karen. The ranch that didn't bow. My ranch sat just beyond the manicured lawns and identical beige houses of Oak Valley Estates. 200 acres of rolling pasture, oak trees older than the state highway, and a livestock operation my family had built over 3 generations. The HOA hated it. They hated the smell. They hated the dust. They hated that my land didn't answer to their bylaws. Most of all, they hated Thunder. Thunder was my prize bull, a massive black Angus with a temperament gentler than most house pets and genetics worth more than some of the homes in Oak Valley. He was the backbone of my breeding program, registered, insured, and recognized statewide. People drove hours just to see him. Karen called him a nuisance animal. The first warnings. It started small. Anonymous complaints about gunshots that turned out to be backfires. Notes taped to my gate warning me about zoning violations. Emails claiming my fences were unsightly and dangerous to joggers. Joggers on my ranch. I ignored it. That was my mistake. Then one afternoon, I caught Karen standing by my southern fence line, clipboard in hand, talking to 2 men wearing camouflage. I walked over. "Can I help you?" I asked. Karen smiled the way people do when they think they've already won. "Oh, I was just giving these gentlemen permission to access the wooded area for seasonal hunting." The HOA approved it. I laughed. I actually laughed. "You're standing on private property," I said. "And you don't have permission to be here." Karen's smile didn't fade. "Well," she said, tapping her clipboard, "according to HOA easement guidelines. There is no easement," I cut in. "And if they step 1 foot past that fence, I'll call the sheriff." The hunters looked uncomfortable. One of them muttered, "Ma'am, maybe we should go." Karen waved him off. "This will be handled," she said sweetly. Oh, it was handled, just not the way she expected. The day everything changed. It happened early on a Saturday morning. I was in the barn when I heard the shots. 3 of them. Sharp. Close. Wrong. I dropped everything and ran. By the time I reached the north pasture, I already knew. You don't spend your life around livestock without knowing when something is terribly, irreversibly wrong. Thunder lay on his side near the tree line. Still, blood soaked into the grass beneath his massive frame. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then I saw the hunters. 2 men frozen in place, rifles lowered, faces pale. One of them whispered, "We thought he was a wild boar." A wild boar. A 2,000-pound registered bull standing in open pasture with a bright orange ID tag. I didn't yell. I didn't swing. I took out my phone and called the sheriff. Karen arrived 20 minutes later, furious, flustered, and already rehearsing excuses. They had HOA permission, she kept repeating. This land is shared use recreational space. The sheriff looked at her like she'd just confessed to arson. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "this is private ranch land. These men are trespassing." Karen's face went white. The investigation. The hunters were cited immediately. Trespassing, illegal discharge of firearms, destruction of livestock. But the story didn't end there. Because, when the sheriff reviewed the call logs, emails, and recorded HOA meeting minutes, something became very clear. Karen hadn't just allowed access. She had actively directed the hunters to enter my land. She gave them a map. She told them the gates would be unlocked. She assured them she had authority. That crossed the line from ignorance to liability. Thunder's insurance valuation came back at $185,000. That number hit the wall like a meteor. Karen doubles down. Instead of apologizing, Karen did what Karens do best. She blamed me. If he didn't want hunters, she told a packed HOA meeting, he shouldn't have left his land so accessible. Accessible. With locked gates, posted signs, fences maintained by professionals. She proposed that the HOA seize part of my land to create a safe buffer zone. That's when my attorney stood up. He placed a thick folder on the table and said, "I'd like to introduce Exhibit A through Z." The room went silent. The lawsuit that shook Oak Valley. We sued Karen personally and the HOA collectively. Wrongful death of livestock, trespass, fraudulent misrepresentation, emotional and financial damages. During discovery, things got ugly. Emails surfaced showing Karen had always wanted my ranch gone. She'd written about forcing compliance and using access rights creatively. One message ended with, "If they lose a few animals, maybe they'll sell." That email became Exhibit 12. The HOA's insurance refused to cover intentional misconduct. Karen was on her own. The fall of a queen. 3 months later, the settlement was finalized. The HOA paid damages. Karen paid damages. And most importantly, the HOA signed a binding agreement recognizing my land as permanently exempt from all HOA authority. Karen was removed as president that same night. By the end of the year, she sold her house and moved away quietly. No farewell email, no apology, just gone. Thunder's legacy. I buried Thunder on a hill overlooking the pasture. Planted an oak tree there. And with part of the settlement money, I expanded the ranch, added security, new fencing, and a breeding program named after him. Every calf born from that line carries his legacy. And every time I hear someone complain about that ranch outside Oak Valley, I smile. Because the HOA learned a lesson they'll never forget. You don't trespass on land you don't own. You don't play rancher when you're not one. And you never mess with a man's livelihood, especially when the law, the land, and the truth are on his side. Karen tried to rule my ranch. Instead, she lost everything.